Students, welcome to the class of management concepts. Let me quickly remind what we have learned so far in the previous lectures. We have discussed about the evolution of management, in which we have discussed about the classical approach. In classical approach, we have discussed about scientific management theory propounded by F.W. Taylor and his associates such as Henry L. Gantt, Gilberts. Then we have discussed about general administrative theory propounded by Henry Fayol. Then we have discussed about bureaucratic theory propounded by Max Weber. Now we'll discuss about the neoclassical approach, in which we'll talk about human relations approach, and one of the prominent studies in human relations approach is Hawthrone studies, which were conducted by Elton Moyo and his team from 1924 to 1932. These Hawthrone studies were actually conducted as a research project by Elton Moyo and his team, who were professors at Harvard Business School. The National Research Council, in collaboration with Western Electric Company, which is now called as AT&T, it was supplying the products for AT&T. So this company has then been taken over by Mobile, and now finally it is AT&T, one of the leading companies in USA. So the company, Western Electric Company, was involved in this research project, which was sponsored by National Research Council. Why was Western Electric Company involved in this research project? The reason for that is because it has a great reputation for advanced personnel policies. So National Research Council wanted to establish the relationship between the working conditions and the productivity. So therefore they have, in collaboration with Harvard Business School, undertaken this study, which was later on named as Hawthrone studies, because it was conducted in the Hawthrone works or Hawthrone plant of Western Electric Company. Now, why was Elton Moyo and his team associated with this? The reason for that is because just prior to this study, Elton Moyo has conducted a similar kind of experiments in one of the textile industries, in a spinning mill in Philadelphia from 1923 to 1924. What had happened in that company was there was a significant problem in that company with respect to the employee turnover. In one department, the employee turnover was 250%, as compared to the average in other departments of same company, which was 6%. This was a serious issue. Turnover, folks, refers to the number of employees which are leaving an organization during a specified period of time. So to find out the reason, Elton Moyo was consulted. Moyo undertook a study, and he did a series of experiments with respect to the working conditions of these employees by changing the rest and pauses. The rest period is pauses of these employees. Finally, through successive experiments, it was found out that the productivity morale of the employees increased, and after 1 year, again the data was collected, and it was found this turnover, which was 250%, has now significantly come down to just 6%. So this was the reason actually Elton Mayo was consulted for this series of experiments. Now at Western Electric Company, the company was producing the equipments like telephonic equipments, electric bells, refrigerator, etc. Switchboards. A series of experiments were conducted. One, Illumination Experiment, which ran from 1924 to 1927. Then Relay Assembly Test Room Experiment from 1927 to 1928. Then Mass Interviewing Experiments, which ran from 1928 to 1930. And Bank Wiring Experiment, which ran from 1931 to 1932. The Illumination Experiment was conducted to find out the effect of light on the productivity. Relay Assembly Test Room Experiment was conducted to find out the effect of working conditions such as rest period, incentives, etc. on the productivity. Mass Interviewing Experiment was conducted to find out workers' attitude and sentiments towards the work, and Bank Wiring Room Experiment was conducted to find out the social system of the organization, and the relationship of all the preceding experiments. So to recap, Hawthrone studies were conducted by Elton Mayo and his associates, which included Elton himself and his associate Fritz J. Rothsberger, William J. Dixon, which were all associated with Harvard Business School. Elton Mayo was actually Australian born, and then he had moved to USA, and then he was working in a couple of universities before he started to work with Harvard Business School. Now let us turn our attention to the first experiment, which is the Illumination Experiment, or what we also called as Lightning Experiment, which was conducted from 1924 to 1927. Right? So what is the purpose of conducting this experiment? Is that quality and quantity of light. Does quality and quantity of light have an impact on the output? So in other words, the hypothesis is, if we change or increase the intensity of light, will there be any increase or decrease in productivity? The hypothesis is that the productivity will increase with the increase in intensity of light. The experimental setup was made. An experimental group and a control group was made. An equal number of participants were divided into two groups, which consisted of the workers manufacturing switchboards under the light. So there's a worker and there's a light, illumination, and these workers are responsible to make switchboards. They're working. Now I want to see, will productivity increase if I increase the intensity of light? I have made an experimental setup. Intensity of light is varied in experimental group. Intensity of light is kept constant. This is similar experimental setup. For example, if I just want to give an example of medicine here. For example, if I want to see in the present scenario whether taking vitamin C and zinc will reduce the occurrence of getting infected with COVID-19 virus. What I will do is I will divide the participants into two groups, experimental group and control group. And then in one group I will give treatment, in another group I will not give treatment. So similarly, in one group I will give, in the experimental group I will give the treatment that is zinc plus vitamin C in some fixed quantity, say for example 5 mg and 10 mg. In control group I will not give any treatment, that I will not give them vitamin C or zinc. Then after a month I will see what was the occurrence of COVID-19 virus infection in this group, what was the occurrence in this group. If I find a significant difference, for example, if the occurrence in this group is 10 and in the occurrence of this group is 20, I would say that there is a significant difference in the occurrence. Because of taking zinc and iron, it has reduced the occurrence of getting infected with COVID-19 virus. So I'm establishing the cause and effect relationship. Right? Similarly, he has varied the intensity of light to find out, does change in intensity of light, the quality and quantity of light, lead to change in output? What was done is intensity of light was increased, the output had increased. Fine, bingo, no problem here. Second, the intensity of light was increased but the productivity decreased. It's a problem. I have increased intensity of light. Workers should be able to see things more properly while making the switchboard, but in case of increasing the productivity, fine, productivity increase. But when I have decreased, they should not be able to see it properly, maybe some difficulty, but productivity again increased. When I have decreased the intensity of light up to the moonlight, that is dim light, where now they have real difficulty, then only the productivity have decreased. In control group, productivity increased. Output increased with increase in the intensity of light. Result, intensity of light does not affect productivity. So in other words, I want to say, or the experiment concluded that there is no correlation between intensity of light or changing the levels of light and the output produced. What they have concluded was that there is something else which is influencing this productivity, and light is not having a much effect on the productivity. Light is just a minor factor. This was the first experiment in the series. We'll discuss about the rest of the experiments in the coming videos. Thank you.